What if I told you that the final battle of humanity, the climactic confrontation between good and evil, was foretold long ago, hidden within cryptic names like Gog and Magog, not in the future, not in some vague timeline, but possibly already unfolding before our eyes? In a world gripped by conflict, rebellion, and spiritual blindness, could ancient names buried in the pages of the Bible actually hold the key to the end of the world as we know it? Gog and Magog, two names that echo like distant thunder through the corridors of prophecy. Mentioned briefly yet powerfully in the books of Ezekiel and Revelation, they've stirred debate, fear, and fascination for centuries. But who or what are they really? Are they nations? Individuals? Symbols? Or are they something even more terrifying? A manifestation of evil that transcends time, culture, and physical borders? In Ezekiel 38 and 39, Gog is described as the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal from the land of Magog. He leads a coalition of nations in a massive assault against the land of Israel, only to be supernaturally defeated by God himself. The battle is cataclysmic, leaving no room for doubt about divine intervention. But centuries later, the names resurface in the book of Revelation, chapter 20, long after Satan has been bound for 1,000 years. Gog and Magog rise again, this time as a vast army summoned from the four corners of the earth, surrounding the camp of God's people before being consumed by fire from heaven. The parallels are startling, and the implications are staggering. Gog and Magog are not just historical curiosities. They represent the final, desperate surge of evil in a world gasping for redemption. But to understand them, we must peel back the layers, myth, metaphor, and prophecy alike. First, let's talk geography. The land of Magog is believed by many scholars to be located somewhere north of Israel, possibly in regions historically associated with the Scythians, or even farther north, near modern-day Russia. The association has led some to conclude that Gog represents a northern power, a confederacy that will one day march south against God's people. But biblical prophecy often blends geography with symbolism, and this may be more than mere geopolitics. Gog, as the leader, may not be a man in the flesh, but a spirit, a personification of rebellion against God. He leads nations. Yes, but perhaps he also leads ideologies. He moves armies, but he also infects minds. If Satan is the dragon, Gog is the beast that emerges at the end of time, rallying the deceived for one last stand against the Creator. Magog then is not just a place, but a people shaped by deception, bound together by a hatred for the holy. The book of Revelation paints this picture vividly. After the 1,000-year reign of Christ, the millennial kingdom, Satan is released from his prison. He wastes no time, deceiving the nations once again and gathering Gog and Magog for a final war. Why would God allow this? Why not lock the devil away forever? The answer, as chilling as it may be, lies in the human heart. Even after 1,000 years of perfect peace, justice, and divine rule, humanity still harbors rebellion. Gog and Magog are the proof that without transformation from within, no amount of external order can save us. This battle is not merely military, it is spiritual. It is the soul's final test. And while the armies march in unison, it is the spirit of Gog that binds them, unites them, and ultimately leads them to their doom. The fire that consumes them is not just physical, it is judgment itself, descending like a final verdict upon a world that refused to listen. But perhaps the most terrifying part of Gog and Magog is not their identity, but their recurrence. In Ezekiel, they come once. In Revelation, they come again. The cycle is not just historical, it's existential. Evil has a way of re-emerging, taking new forms, wearing new faces. Every generation has seen its own Gog and Magog, powers that rise up against righteousness. Voices that speak lies louder than truth. Movements that promise freedom, but deliver chains. Could Gog and Magog be operating now in our media, in our politics, in our classrooms, in our own hearts? Are we unknowingly following their voice? Confusing charisma with wisdom and compromise with love. It's no coincidence that their assault comes at the end of peace. When everything seems calm, evil lurks beneath the surface. Gog and Magog are the final test, the ultimate expression of what lies within the hearts of men. When all excuses have been stripped away, no more blaming systems or governments. This is the raw confrontation between good and evil, naked and without pretense. The Revelation account shows no drawn-out battle. The enemy surrounds the camp of the saints, an image of total vulnerability. But then comes fire. Swift, decisive, divine. There is no room for negotiation, no terms of surrender. Evil has had its chance. It has shown its full face, and now it is destroyed. But before that moment comes, we live in the time of choosing. Gog and Magog may rise again in the future, but their spirit is already here, testing loyalties, whispering doubts, offering power in exchange for silence. The final war may be cosmic, but its battlefield begins within. Ancient rabbis spoke of Gog and Magog as the great shaking before the Messiah, a time when truth would be inverted. Chaos would wear the mask of order, and men would call evil good. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? In an age where deception travels faster than truth and faith is traded for convenience, the spirit of Gog is gaining followers by the hour. But the story doesn't end with fire. After the destruction of Gog and Magog, the book of life is opened. The final judgment begins. A new heaven, a new earth. The holy city descends like a bride, and God dwells among his people. There are no more enemies, no more wars, no more night. So why does the Bible mention Gog and Magog at all if their end is already written? Because prophecy is not about prediction, it's about preparation. We are not meant to speculate endlessly on the identities of Gog and Magog. We are meant to examine ourselves, to stay awake, and to live with the fierce urgency of those who know the final chapter is already written. To dismiss them as ancient relics is to miss the point. Gog and Magog are not only about the end, they are about now. They are about the subtle wars we fight every day, the choices we make, the ideologies we embrace, the kingdom we serve. And so, the final battle is not waiting for some far-off apocalypse. It is here in every heart that must decide, will I follow the Lamb, or will I be swept up in the march of Gog and Magog? In the end, the question is not who they are, but who we are becoming. The final battle may not be fought with swords or tanks, but with narratives, ideologies, and allegiance. Gog and Magog aren't just coming from the outside, they rise from within. They are every compromise we make when we choose comfort over truth, every rationalization we create when we silence conviction in favor of acceptance. They thrive in the absence of discernment, feeding on the spiritual apathy that has become so common in a distracted world. Their power isn't brute force, it is deception masquerading as enlightenment. Consider this. Revelation speaks of Gog and Magog, gathering like the sand of the sea, countless, innumerable, not because they are forced, but because they are willing. The most chilling aspect of the final rebellion is not its violence, but its volunteerism. Humanity will not be dragged into war. It will march proudly toward it, convinced of its own righteousness, echoing the ancient lie that began in Eden. You will be like God. The same serpent that whispered in the garden speaks again through the spirit of Gog, offering freedom that leads to bondage, progress that leads to ruin, and peace that ends in fire. We think we're building a better world, but the foundation is cracking, and the spirit of Magog is writing the blueprints. Why is it that after 1,000 years of divine rule, after the visible presence of God among men, humanity still chooses rebellion? Because true loyalty cannot be coerced, love cannot be manufactured, and faith, if not freely given, is nothing more than empty ritual. The end of Revelation isn't a tragedy, it is a test. One final proving ground to separate the loyal from the lost, the wheat from the weeds, the faithful from the false. And yet, through all the fire, all the deception, all the rebellion, there is one constant: God wins. Not with chaos, not with manipulation, but with final, irrefutable justice. The flames that consume Gog and Magog do not leave behind ashes of regret. They leave behind the purity of a world finally set free from rebellion forever. Evil is not simply pushed back, it is eradicated. Not hidden, but exposed and judged. And in that moment, we will see the truth, that Gog and Magog were never just enemies from afar. They were the last mirror held up to humanity, the final revelation of our desperate need for transformation. Not just change in behavior, but resurrection of the heart. A new creation, the death of pride and the birth of eternal loyalty. Even now, before that final battle erupts, we are being prepared. Every spiritual battle you face is a preview of that great day. Every moment you choose humility over arrogance, love over hate, truth over comfort, you are resisting the spirit of Gog. You are making your stand in the shadow of eternity. You are training your heart not for survival, but for sovereignty in the kingdom of light. The deception of Gog is subtle. It tells you that you're good enough without God, that progress and peace can be achieved apart from truth, that unity is more important than conviction. But unity without truth is just noise in the wind, a house built on sand. Gog unites the world, yes, but not for healing, for destruction. Contrast that with the unity of the Lamb. It's not forced. It's not deceptive. It comes through surrender, through sacrifice, through the blood of the one who laid down his life to reconcile enemies and call them sons. The army of Gog surrounds the camp, but the camp of God is already sealed, protected, holy, because there, King is not shaken by numbers. He does not fear the multitude. He has already overcome the world. And this is the mystery too, grand for human minds to fully grasp, that even in judgment, God is just. Even in wrath he is righteous. He delays not because he is weak, but because he is merciful, giving time, extending grace, waiting for more to awaken and realize that this world is not the final chapter, that the real war is not around us but within us, and that the final battle will not be decided by weapons, but by worship. When Gog and Magog march for the last time, they will not know they are already defeated. They will carry banners of pride, wear armor of arrogance, and chant slogans of liberation. But they will not see the fire until it falls. And in that fire, all deception dies. All illusion burns. What remains is truth. And those who have stood with truth will never again face a shadow. That is the promise. That is the final revelation. Gog and Magog may be terrifying symbols of ultimate evil, but they are not the end of the story. They are only the last gasp of a dying lie, the final echo of a rebellion that began with a whisper and ends with a roar, extinguished by divine justice, silenced by eternal light. And when the smoke clears, when the battle is over, a voice will thunder, not in wrath, but in triumph. Behold, I am making all things new. The former things will pass away. Death will be no more. Tears will be wiped away by the very hand of God. And you, if your name is written in the book of life, you will not just be a survivor of the final battle. You will be a citizen of a new creation, a witness to the triumph of truth, a child of the King who never lost control, even when the world trembled. So now, in this moment before the fire, the question remains, whom will you follow? The deceiver who promises glory in rebellion, or the Lamb who offers life in surrender? One path ends in smoke. The other begins in light. Gog and Magog will come. The battle will rage. But you were not made for destruction. You were made for the dawn. So listen closely, not with your ears, but with your spirit. The story of Gog and Magog is not written to entertain or frighten, but to awaken, to pull the veil from your eyes and reveal that the war isn't waiting on some distant horizon. It's happening now, in the quiet choices, in the hidden corners of your soul. And while the world looks outward, searching for signs in the sky, heaven is watching for one thing only, your decision. Not someday, today. You are not powerless. You are not forgotten. You are standing at the edge of eternity, with breath still in your lungs and purpose, still burning in your bones. You were not placed in this time by accident. You are not hearing these words by coincidence. Before the fire falls, before the sky splits, before Gog and Magog take their final step toward judgment, there is still grace, still hope, still time, but not forever. The day is coming when every allegiance will be known, every motive revealed, and on that day, there will be no room left for lukewarm hearts or neutral ground. Light and darkness will no longer coexist. The King will return, not as a suffering servant, but as a roaring lion, his robe dipped in the blood of sacrifice, his eyes blazing with justice, and his voice shaking the heavens with a name above every name. Will he find you ready? Because in the end, it won't matter how many battles you fought if your heart never surrendered. It won't matter what you built if it wasn't built on truth. And it won't matter what you ran from if you never ran toward him. Gog and Magog will rise. The world will tremble. But those who stand with the Lamb will not be moved. So choose now, not out of fear, but out of faith. Because the greatest deception of the enemy is not in making us hate God, but in convincing us we have more time. And time, like sand, is slipping through eternity's fingers. Gog and Magog are real. The fire is real. But so is the victory. So is the mercy. So is the King who waits not to punish, but to redeem. Let your name be found written in his book. Let your life be marked by his truth. And when the final trumpet sounds and the armies of the earth assemble, may your heart already belong to the one who never needed an army to win. The end has already been written. The battle is not for victory, it's from it. The only question left is, Will you be ready when the fire falls?